All right, so we decided to make a second video. Um, we're just kind of bullshitting. Apparently, there's a little misunderstanding as to what the first video was based on the name of the video, First Run. It was just kind of a dry fire that we did. There was no planning, as a matter of fact. Like I told a couple people who watched the video, he didn't even know we were recording at first. I just kind of set the phone down. You can see in it, I reached down to adjust the camera a little bit to get him back into frame, and that's about the time it was known that I was recording us. But we decided to do slightly more structured this time, not a whole hell of a lot. And let's get at it. I mean, what did you want to talk about? Old game systems?
I suppose.
So, like, I've played the majority of old game systems, personally. I really liked the NES for some of the games that it had. It was the 16-bit. Super Nintendo, though, I think was probably my favorite. You got to tip your hat to 64 for having the first Smash Brothers game on it. But
did you say NES was 16-bit?
Yeah, it was 16. Super Nintendo was 32, and Nintendo 64 was 64. Right?
No.
No.
NES was 8-bit.
8-bit. Oh, well, I'm an idiot, so.
You're not old enough to even talk about the NES. You were barely... It was the Atari to you by the time you were...
I own an Atari. Wait, fuck you. I played an Atari. I have a functioning Atari. You sitting there holding your NES right now. What is it? Is it like your security blanket?
It is my security blanket.
It is your security blanket?
It's my bubby. This one currently doesn't work. I need to clean it and, all that fun stuff.
All that fun stuff. I mean, I liked the NES for the challenge that it was. I mean, it's something that I don't like about the new game systems now. We have young family members who talk about how hard games are, and they, we talked about in the last video about running bare bones on video games. And honestly, if it wasn't for how difficult certain games were on the NES, I don't know about you, but I don't think I would be able to play a lot of the games the way that I play them. Like the first Legend of Zelda, my copy was secondhand. So I didn't get the map or the book or anything like that. And the first thing that happens is you start in an open field with nothing. Mm-hmm. And the first, you go up one screen and there's a little dark spot, which you don't know what it is. Kind of looks like a cave, but I don't fucking know. This is the first time I played this game. So you walk up to it, and some old dude says it's dangerous to go alone. Take this, and hand you a sword. That's it. Where am I going? I don't know, but I got a sword with me, so... I mean, it's like I saw this YouTube video, and I can't remember which one it was. I think it was like The Legend of Neil. The one where he autoerotic asphyxiates himself with a controller while jerking off drunk one night and he gets sucked into the Legend of Zelda game. I believe that's one where he says, well, I'm still alone. I'm just alone with a sword. And then, of course, you were Mario, and we talked a little bit about my mad skill at dying at Mario. Mm-hmm. Even the Sega, which you have your Sega setup over there. Mm-hmm. Sega had its good points. I mean, Sonic, can't argue with Sonic.
Yeah.
Sonic was a real Sega thing. Even going all the way back to the Atari, especially for its time, had some good games on it up until E.T. If any of you watching didn't know, E.T. killed Atari. A single video game killed an entire gaming franchise. That's why you don't ever see anything but a little bit of programming or shit done on Atari.
Pretty much.
Well,
they're actually I forget who's doing it, but there's a small I think GoFundMe type group out there. They're actually bringing back kind of like the mini NES and the NES.
Right. I've seen a couple
Have you
of those.
seen those?
Yeah, the ones loaded with like 100 and some games or
Well,
something.
those
Like you
are-
can get those at Walmart.
Well, no. This is a complete different
Oh, really?
system. It's been all revamped. They're bringing back a new style to it, a little more updated, modern look to it. But they're also keeping that retro design to it. And if I remember correctly, they'll have
So like modern retro.
it's like a modern
Because
retro.
that like makes that's not an oxymoron, or, you know.
I'm just saying it's definitely really cool looking. There's right now I don't know what their release date is for it, but it looks really cool. It looks, I would definitely buy one when it gets released.
Well, I mean, I know as far as like the ones that they have out now, the little minis or whatever that have all the preloaded games. I was looking at them, and they don't have any of the games that, like one or two of the games maybe that I liked, but it's like they couldn't get the rights to the big titles.
Well, they own the big titles.
Well, I mean, like, I'm guessing it's some kind of sub company that's putting out the little ones that you can get at Walmart or something.
No, those are actually put out by Nintendo.
Are they?
Yeah.
See, I glanced over it.
Oh, you can find the bootleg knockoffs with like 500 and something in one.
Right,
Those
right,
things are crap.
Well, I mean, any game system that is retro-based with multiple games on it, I mean, outside of, like, the Neo Geo, which, that's an arcade cabinet, for anybody who doesn't know what a Neo Geo is. But, you were going to say?
No, go ahead. I was just going to grab something else.
But yeah, so basically, like, I even had that, one of those 3 game system interchangeables with Nintendo, like the NES, Sega, and Super Nintendo, I want to say.
Oh, you're talking about the Retrons.
Yeah, the Retrons. And those things are garbage. Like, I'm pretty sure one of my old Super Nintendo cartridges is fucking barbecued. Because I didn't realize it was damaged or anything. Nothing had happened to it. It was in a dry, cool place. Like, you keep all, electronics, especially old ones. You really don't want those getting wet. Because new ones have, like, precautionary measures for getting wet.
Yeah.
Old ones don't. New ones you can drop. I mean, you don't, but, you can, and they'll be all right. But the old game systems, I mean, even though they were hardier in a way, they were a little more fragile in a way, too. And all I did was plug it in, I put the game in, I turned it on, it didn't fire. I turned it off, pulled the game out, blew in it, because that's what you did. You blew in video games back in the day before disc, which I don't know why the Sega Dreamcast thought discs were such a good idea. They were ahead of their fucking time. But I put it back in, turned it on, and the bastard shot sparks at me. So I don't think that I even turned it off. I think I just ripped the power cords out the back, because, I mean, any game system that's shooting sparks at you, it's done. there's no recovering that motherfucker.
It's
toast.
a decoration.
Right. A fucking glorified $60-some paperweight that may have destroyed one of my retro games.
Yeah, and now you can buy them for like $25, $30, something like that for
Right.
the Retrons now. Problem is with those Retrons like that, the colors are wonky on them
Little
because,
off.
well,
Especially going on like newer televisions, because they were designed for older TVs.
Well, I bought one of the Retrons, and I was using it for an arcade project.
So you wasted your money too.
Well, I mean, it was a great. I didn't want to destroy or really mess around with any of my original NES stuff when I first did
they're
it.
kind of rare now.
Well, yeah, you can still find them, but they're not getting
they're-
any cheaper. That's for sure.
No, and they're usually not in mint condition anymore. I mean,
No.
the only way that you get a really good quality one is if you just so happen to be alive when they were still being produced and you took care of it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a gamble, man. I mean, it's the same kind of gamble as buying a secondhand game now. Like, you get that disc, and they can promise whatever in the hell they want. They can even give you insurance. With the funny thing that they do with secondhand games nowadays is even if they do give you any kind of guarantee, like if it doesn't work, you can bring it back. The most they'll do is give you like store credit or like a portion of what you paid on it. And they're like, well, it was a used game. What are you gonna like? Fuck you, GameStop, you pieces of shit. Sorry. Raged a little bit there.
They have it coming.
Sorry for the outburst. It's ma'am.
Hey now.
That might have been a little too far. Like I said, I'm trying to stay out of social and political bullshit, but that was funny.
Sad thing is, I'm telling you, hey now, and I'm the one who introduced you to it.
Right. You're the one who showed me the fucking
I'm
video.
just like, are you
And
serious?
like, you show it to me, and the next day, I'm talking to somebody, and they're like, you got to watch this video, and they fire it up, and I was like, oh, I know that
I've already
video.
seen this one.
Yeah, I've already seen it. We had a good solid laugh at it for like, what, 45 minutes? Almost an hour?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
it's wonky.
Anyways, you're holding a small, like,
Yeah.
NES. What, did your NES fuck like a
No,
1997
this
cell
is
phone?
a cheap
Or
ass
2005
cool
cell phone, whatever.
baby that you can get usually on Top Hatter. The thing is, though, I'm glad I didn't pay a lot.
Like a...
It's kind of like, I don't know. You see commercials for them nowadays and things like that. But
Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
it's like that. Everything ends in like 80, 90 seconds, whatever the hell it is.
Right.
You know. Anyways, they show all the old people getting
Like,
all excited, like they just won.
like that one with the bee.
Yeah. But anyways, don't pay more than $5 for one of these. It's It's a great, just cheap ass little deal. You know,
Right.
to toss to your kids to introduce them to.
It doesn't look like the lid even opens.
No, nothing
it's
opens.
all, like,
Well,
pre-programmed in there?
even the new NESs
Right.
don't open up. You can't play like retro.
So
original
we're getting to a
cartridges.
point where you can buy whatever predetermined games are on it, but you can't just run your own.
No, and that's actually what I wish that Nintendo would actually
that-
do.
It's not a horrible thing.
With
That's going to
their-
increase value of the ones that I have. So
Well, and that's the thing. That's the reason why I keep, my small stack of NES games.
right.
Because even though I picked up one of the Super
Right.
Nintendo Minis,
I hope that chat bubble wasn't actually.
probably not
Well, it was bugging me.
bugging you.
Oh, now everybody got a real nice close up of my hand. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
yeah.
If I can figure out any kind of editing before this goes up, I'll try and like cut that like 7 seconds or whatever it was out. But if not, enjoy my beautiful working hands. Like
Oh, yeah.
they're amazing.
I'm surprised you haven't cut one off yet.
No, I think I do have nerve damage in a couple of them. I mean, like I have this gnarly scar. I get like fucking it's on this finger from stained glass class, dude. Cut right down to the bone. It was fucking gnarly. I'm so surprised that like I didn't even get stitches on it. I wasn't even freaked out. My art teacher nearly passed the fuck out, but
Typical art teacher.
Right. Run it underwater. I was like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yes." Just the skin just falls. I was like, "Are you? Hey, buddy, I'm the one bleeding over
It's like
here."
over here. Fuck.
My eyes are up here, pal.
Anyways,
Yeah, I digress. I digest.
I digest.
Peter Griffin. Yeah, fuck yeah.
Peter Griffin. Anyways. So, but yeah, don't waste your money on the cool baby. There's probably seriously, that's what they call it, cool baby.
That's fucking
They-
weird.
Well,
Like, that's what you choose to call your
yeah, that's what they,
cool baby.
yeah,
no.
family computer system. Stay away
Wasn't
from
it just called an original like home entertainment or family entertainment system? I know that the Atari the Atari box that I have, it specifically says Atari like 50 whatever hundred.
2600.
I think it's 50.
I'm pretty sure yours is a 2600.
It might be a 20. Well, it might not be the right box for it either. I mean, I got it secondhand like
Yeah,
shit.
I don't see somebody swapping out
15 years ago.
like the guts from like a different model.
Right,
into
no,
it.
I honestly do not remember because when the coaxial broke when I was living with you, I'm a procrastinator, man.
You can buy them.
I know I can.
Go down to freaking gameplay. It's like $3.
I just never got around to it, man. Like I keep putting it off, and every time I go to like any kind of business or whatever, and I see one, I'm like, oh, hey, I should pick that up. You know what? I know where they are. I'll pick them up next time.
Mhm.
And next time I'm like, oh, hey, I should pick one of those up. You know what? I'll remember where they are this time. I should pick it up next time. And then one day out of the blue, I'm looking through all my game stuff, and I look down at the Atari, and I'm like, it'd be really nice. But we also screwed the controllers on that, trying to tidy them up. But yeah,
This is back before it was even common for
Right,
people
right.
to even try and keep one of these playing.
right.
Your console itself is fine. It's you got crappy controls. Not that Atari had the best controllers to start, anyways.
No, it's got all those fucking buttons on
Yeah,
it.
and they do nothing.
Were you supposed to be able to do math while you were playing? But anyways,
Pretty much.
So back to what I was. I'm pretty sure because it shows like a a very typical Caucasian American family from like the 70s and 80s, all sitting around as if, parents were really interested in well, I mean, I guess some parents were interested in Pong. But yeah, it's like the family sitting around and it says Atari Family Entertainment System. Pretty sure it says Family Entertainment. It might just say Home Entertainment. Like I said, it's been a really long time since I've even looked at the box. I've got it sitting in like a dry, temperate place. Not a lot of temperature fluctuation. Although I would not. No, it's up high. I'm like the dogs don't go anywhere near there. But at the same time, because there's a lot of electronics and my dog is like neurotic. She has like anxiety issues and shit like that.
So what you're trying to say is the only dog that would go near it would be a drug sniffing dog?
Basically.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if they find drugs in that stuff, that's where I put them.
Exactly. It's also a good place to keep your weed.
Dude, I'm pretty sure that I, stashed, back when I was, 16, 17, still living with my parents, trying not to let them know that I had weed. I'm pretty sure there is stuff that I have from when I moved out that probably has, 12 to 15-year-old marijuana. Just, hiding in it that's, turned to dust by now. Up in some compartment of something that I don't use anymore. I don't even know why I'm dragging it around from house to house over the last fucking 10, 15 years.
It's habit.
Right.
It's habit.
Plus, I mean, you don't get rid of an Atari that still works. What is wrong with you? But I would love to get a screen capture of that Pitfall game that I have.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, my God. So this Pitfall game, this version of Pitfall that I have, you start off and you have control of your character, but your character doesn't properly interact with the stage. So you jump onto one of the little swinging vines to jump over a quicksand pit or something like that. And as soon as you're about to come off the other side, suddenly you're on a different level.
Oh yeah. Fuck, I hated that. I was come on, what the hell's going on?
You're running around that level and you just die. For no reason. There aren't any enemies around. And then you're on what looks like maybe the last level. And the first time it happened, I was like, oh my God, this game is the original Mario. I'm jumping levels. What am I doing to do this? And then you move on the last level and bam, you're back to the first one. It was a mind fuck because I didn't know what I was expecting playing Pitfall for the first time. And here I am trying to get through this game and just randomly jumping between levels every time I hit a button. Oh my God, it was so annoying. So frustrating. Because I was looking so forward to that. It was I couldn't get the Atari to set up myself. So I got him to help me. And we jerry-rigged it. Well, that's kind of racist to Germans, but...
Whatever.
Jimmy rigged it up to the TV. And got it fully functioning. What am I talking about? I am German. I can be racist to Germans. But we get it hooked up, and I mean we played Pac-Man for a little while, which is awesome. My Pac-Man's fully functional. Just like that. I think I have one of the original. I don't know. That might be on my Sega though. That I have one of the old school football games. One of the ones that is commonly known for being brutally unfair.
Was it the 1,000-yard fight, I believe it was?
I don't remember, but something like that. Yeah. I mean, I have some obscure games, too. I got this garbage game called Echo the Dolphin for my Sega.
Oh, Jesus.
You remember that? Me trying to get through that stupid game. Oh, my God, it is so stupid. It's like an abduction game, but with dolphins.
It's
weird.
So obscure.
I think it's time travel, maybe.
I don't know. It's so obscure, though. It's really pointless at the end of the day.
It is. I bring it up to people and nobody knows what I'm talking about.
I remember playing that one.
Nobody knows what I'm talking about.
I was okay, I'm bored. 10 minutes in, I'm like...
I stuck with that game for a good, 4 hours before I finally was just I'm done. And it's old school Sega... I mean, which a lot
of... The graphics on it were pretty decent for what it was. I mean,
pretty decent.
They were great.
Well, it's probably because the story was, non-existent.
There was no story.
So,
yeah.
The story, the button configuration was all garbage, so they were able to put all their budget into the graphics. Probably only made, 700 of them, got most of them returned.
Probably. It's
Right. But, yeah, it's it's just one of those games, and it's back before they had like save systems.
Mm-hmm.
So you got those stupid codes.
Oh yeah,
which were like
never did you any good.
37
anyways.
digits, and then you use the code, and you come back and don't have the items that you had.
Yeah.
When you got the code, which just pisses you off, because then, like, dude, I worked really hard to get, there were other games that did that, and I can't think of,
there's a lot of
can't think of them right now.
A lot of Nintendo systems did that. Had codes that would do nothing. Had codes that you would always start off at the beginning of the level, no matter how far you progressed.
Right.
Through
like
it.
You'd get to like the they called them like save points or whatever, but really what you did was you interacted with it, and it would pop up a like 37-digit code on screen, numbers, letters, and symbols. So then you'd spend like 15 minutes. The Addams Family game, I want to say, did that too. You spend like 15 minutes writing this code down. You take enough of a break to like go to school or whatever it was that you had to do. You get back to the game, you're real excited because this is your first playthrough of the game, and when you type in the code, you start at the beginning of the level with like none of the stuff that you carried over from the previous level. And now you're pissed because you worked really hard to get like all these coins.
And you can't finish the level without the crap that you
Right, because you weren't supposed to take a break right there. Yeah, great. I mean, at least Mario had like the potential to be done in one run.
Old school games were definitely a endurance run. People make such a big deal out of them nowadays.
By a long shot.
They're something so trivial. Basically, it's like, oh, I did a endurance run. It took me freaking 20 minutes to do it. That was a long time.
I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, but we got onto this topic, and I basically just explained to him, a lot of video games now, they look beautiful. Like, they are. Video games have gotten so pretty over the last, not even 10 years, dude. Like, they've made jumps. Huge jumps. I mean, you go back just as far as the Nintendo 64, which is probably a little earlier than I would actually probably date it. I was super lucky. I actually nailed, in my last video when I said 2002 for Wind Waker, I looked it up after the video. Nailed it, dude. Right on the spot. It was released in 2002. I was actually really impressed with that. I was like, oh my god, I actually remembered a date. Like, what good does remembering history in any sense if you don't remember the actual date? But, I mean, the Nintendo 64 was, what, like 90s? Because the GameCube was 2000s, which puts the Super Nintendo at, like, early 90s, and the NES at, like, late 80s. Like, because I want to say 85 to 87 was when it was like the new thing. And then slowly it stopped, it lost steam, and that's when they came out with the Super Nintendo, which picked up again, and then I don't think the Super Nintendo actually ever really lost steam. Certain games did, because certain games were garbage, but like A Link to the Past came out on Super Nintendo, and I mean, we talked a lot about Legend of Zelda, and I will probably continue because it's one of my favorite game franchises in all of gaming history. But that game was so substantially good. Like, oh my goodness, it was so much fun. It was so amazing. I still hold to this day that Ocarina of Time, fuck all you haters, Ocarina of Time is the best Zelda game in all history. But a lot of the games that came out for the Super Nintendo, like Chrono Trigger, came out for the Super Nintendo. That was actually... Well, Chrono Trigger wasn't exactly Square Enix or Squaresoft, and at some point they made like some kind of merger and all that. But Chrono Trigger was one of the last games from that company to come out on a Nintendo game system until Crystal Chronicles on the GameCube. The last one that is widely considered to be the last Final Fantasy game, because Chrono Trigger is an offshoot of Final Fantasy, but the last Final Fantasy game that is widely considered to have come out on a Nintendo system was the Legend of the Crystals, or Crystal Quest? It was Final Fantasy. I have it on my phone as like
say, which one did you...
ROM.
No, that was for the GameCube. The one you spent... I looked at you like you were mental. You spent like 50 or 100 and some freaking bucks on the damn thing. Is that for the GameCube?
Are you talking about the Fire Emblem game?
No, this was Final Fantasy.
because I did buy a Final Fantasy game. Oh, you're talking about Final Fantasy VII, the 3-disc game that I paid like, I want to say it was like $60 or $80. And I tried to talk the guy down because it was such an old game. But Final Fantasy VII was also a major game. And it came out for the PS1.
PS1, that's right.
Yes, because then I had to go and buy a special memory card for the PS1 because it won't save on a PS2 memory card. And that was back when you were running the PS3, I was running the PS2. I still hold by my PlayStation 2. It's still fully functional. My PlayStation 3 is still awesome. I pretty much only play my PlayStation 4. But after the GameCube came out, in my opinion, game systems became a lot more what pros and cons you were willing to put up with. Whereas, like, the older game systems, like Nintendo 64, you weren't really focused on the cons of it. You were just focused on the fun of it. You know,
it was a great system.
Super Nintendo and Sega and those game systems, I mean, I do not want to talk about the fucking Sears release when Nintendo went bankrupt and sold a bunch of their rights to Sears, which was just a horrible idea. It's such a horrible idea. I mean, who makes a video game where Princess Zelda is the hero? Sears. Well, that's Sears is who. I mean, stick to home appliances, boys.
Oh, now I'm forgetting who it was. Who the hell was it that made all the crappy NES games? The angry video game nerds always going off about those guys. And I know, I just can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember who the hell they are now.
Yeah, there was a...
They got the rainbow graphic. I forget exactly their name, though.
Oh my goodness, I should know this.
Yeah, so should I.
Oh, do you remember any of the names of any of the games?
They had a lot of them.
Well, unfortunately, that's the thing about video games. In my opinion, is it's a lot easier to find a garbage video game. It's kind of like movies. You find a lot of garbage movies, and then you find a good one, and nobody's seen or heard of it, unless it's like mainstream. I mean, I got a bunch of friends who are all obsessed with the fucking Avengers movies. Don't look at me like that, dude. Do not look at me like that. I think Marvel has shit the bed.
Thank you, Disney. Thanks for fucking up Star Wars for us.
Yeah, right? Jesus Christ. Worst fucking Star Wars movies ever made. And I'm a fan of the prequel trilogy. That should say a lot about where my taste is. Oh my god, garbage. Disney. Man. I would call them the devil, but I think... I don't think they're smart enough.
No, they already know they are. Thanks for fucking up my childhood.
Right? You raped my childhood. I wonder if Disney's owned by Catholic. Never mind. Might have gone a little too far with that joke.
Yeah, you're getting a little.
Anyways,
PC.
I'm not gonna make that joke. But I mean, honestly though, looking back, like, I did grow up playing the NES. Cousin Donnie was the one who, he gave me an NES for Christmas because I had been going over to Aunt Marcy's house and playing the NES with him.
Was it his?
It was a lot of, well, I don't know.
Well, I know it was his. I was just trying to think, was it the original one that they got?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is I have no idea where he got it from. I know that wasn't his only NES.
Okay.
So he might have given me his original when he got like a new, well, not new.
You would have known if it was his original, because I swear to God, if he still has it today, I guarantee the controllers will still be wrapped in like little red bag ties around
Oh
it.
yeah,
for
I
the
forgot about that. I forgot about that.
his has got to be mint.
Now,
I mean,
he would let me take the bags off, but I had to wash my hands, and but I was also a little kid, and little kids are fucking goober machines.
But can you imagine, do you realize how expensive an NES back then was, originally?
Like $80.
$80?
But that was $80 in
it was more
1980s money.
No,
was it
they
really?
were way more than that. I believe Mom and Dad bought us one in '85 when they pretty much first.
Oh, you know, you're
hit the
right, because
shelf.
I think the Super Nintendo that my dad bought, and it wasn't brand, like, it was new in the box, but it wasn't, like, brand new. The game system had already, like, started falling off. The Nintendo 64 was out, and my dad found an unopened one, and he bought it for our family on Christmas, which he then resented doing.
You paid just as much for it as the 64 was?
It was over $100.
Yeah.
I know that.
The original
And
NES
he did not buy the Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
This guy.
A lot of
The only thing he bought me from the Nintendo 64 was Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And that was a barter that he really got more out of than I did. Oh my god. I was a little... I was a whore for video games. My dad got so much work out of me for that fucking game. And it was $30, which should tell you how old the game was at the time. And I had played it like twice. And I loved it so much. I had no concept of what the game was about. I had played the older ones, but like it was Nintendo 64, which was completely different. I mean, anybody who's played Nintendo 64 knows that even storylines aren't very similar to the other to the pre-existing game systems. And yeah, I ended up working for I think 6 months. I did anything my dad asked at the drop of a freaking hat. Which he was also never satisfied with anything that I did because he could have done it better. And so it was just 6 months of constant verbal and emotional abuse from my dad over a stupid $30 Nintendo 64 game. No, it wasn't. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. I make a lot of jokes and blow a lot of my childhood out of proportion. It really
You blew a lot in your childhood.
Yeah, into those fucking video game cartridges, and they still wouldn't work properly. You'd still hit levels and it just glitch out, or oh my god, if one heavy-footed person in the room walked through. Mm-hmm. Yep, we're restarting. Wonderful.
Reset.
Although I do have to give it to the older game systems. My dad, so one night I was 10 or 11, and I had snuck the game system out of the we had a small TV in one of the rooms that we were allowed to play the game system on, within reason. We had to get our chores done and our homework and, help around the house, which chores and helping around the house weren't exactly the same thing all the time in my household. We had our predetermined, and then we had extra, to help mom with cleaning the bathroom. Probably why I don't like cleaning bathrooms anymore, because that got put on me quite a bit, and bathrooms are disgusting. But
thanks.
Oh my god. Well, I didn't realize I was lactose intolerant yet. That was a fun discovery in my 20s. But
you're just intolerant.
Right? I have that effect on people. They get to know me, and I'm kind of like green olives. Either you can't get enough of me, or you vomit upon the sight of me. No, I'm not that bad. Well, I mean, it depends on who you ask. But so I left my game system sitting out in the living room, hooked up to the TV, and my dad, full on, and you've met my dad, he's a big dude, he's not some little guy, full on, fucking soccer kicked, Pele style, that game system across the freaking room, hit the wall, game cartridge comes flying out, which he then stepped on and slipped. That man was gonna kill me. And the game system was fine. Try doing that with your PlayStation 4, see what happens.
Well,
I mean, older game systems, though. One thing they were, but their controllers were garbage. Their controllers were straight up garbage.
I don't know.
The Nintendo 64...
The NES cartridges, or paddles, I thought were amazing.
Okay, so... The NES paddle was what?
It was
A and B, start, select, up, down, left, and right. Yeah. And we've gotten to an aggressive argument about whether or not shoulder buttons were on it, and they were not.
They weren't.
Although
I've never said they were.
I had a Super Nintendo controller that did have shoulder buttons on it.
Nintendo always
not
had
all of
shoulder.
them did. I don't look at me like that.
Fuck, are you
I'm
talking
telling you,
about?
I'm.
Okay, you find it.
You know what the Mandela effect is?
You fucking find it. The
Mandela effect.
You mean the Mingala effect?
No, I mean Mandela.
No, it's the Mingala effect.
No, it's not.
No, you're just remembering it wrong.
Oh, fuck
it's
you.
The Mingala effect.
Fuck you.
That's part of the Mingala effect. Anyways, you dumb shit. Super Nintendo always had shoulder buttons.
They called it the Mandela effect, or at least what I read up on it was because... Fuck you! I'll mingle you! I don't know what that means. but it sounds like we're both going to have to hit the gas on the alcohol.
I'm just saying.
But no, they called it the Mandela effect because in like 1997, some woman convinced like over 5,000 people that Nelson Mandela had died. He didn't die until 2014. These people were convinced that it happened. But there are also people who are convinced about a lot of other things happening, and I'm telling you, I'm very convinced about this.
So what you're saying is the fact that I can actually remember there being a
Super Nintendo controller with shoulder buttons on it.
It always had shoulder buttons.
And I remember clearly playing with at least 2 controllers in my lifetime that did not have
Did you
shoulder
have
buttons
like
on them.
shitty generic ones?
Probably.
Well, there you go.
Well, there you go. That means that I'm not 100% wrong. Maybe only like 60%. Not the point. What I was getting at is that the Nintendo 64 was the worst game system controller in all of fucking gaming history.
Which one did you say again?
The Nintendo 64.
Okay. Well, you're
half of the buttons were useless.
They were.
You didn't like. Okay, so it had the 2 prongs up here. It was a trident shape, and it had that one.
You actually had. No, that was the GameCube that had the 2.
Yeah. No, it had 2 holders.
Yeah.
One with a D-pad,
left and right.
One with the A and B and the C buttons, and then you had the 2 shoulder buttons, and then you had the center grip that had the control stick and the trigger.
Yeah.
You would never use the left prong on that game system. I mean, every once in a while you'd find a game where it did serve purpose, but usually it didn't. Usually everything that you could do with the left-hand side of that control stick, or controller, you could do with the center grip. So there was an entire, technically 5 buttons that were basically useless. And they broke down incredibly quickly.
It's like all the freaking add-ons that they have for these old machines.
Right.
Well, even the NES has a
right. Like a bunch of adapter stuff on the underside.
Expansion packs.
Right.
Things like that.
The Nintendo 64 was apparently supposed to be designed to have like a dozen and a half.
I believe, didn't they have a disc drive set up?
They may have.
That you set it on.
A lot of them either. A lot of those adaptations either didn't make it out of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Or
they just didn't
make it out of production. Like, they were supposed to have some kind of disc thing. They were supposed to have expanded memory for it. They did have expansion packs, which is the reason why I can't play my Nintendo 64 version of Donkey Kong, because I apparently don't have an expansion pack for my Nintendo 64.
Well, wasn't it the GameCube that actually was, to my memory, being the one and only true functional adapter, and I believe it was so you could play your Game Boy Advance.
Super Nintendo did that first.
Super Nintendo did that first?
Super Nintendo did it with the what the fuck was it called?
Oh, it was for the Game Boy, wasn't
yeah,
it?
you put your Game Boy, it would not play Game Boy Color, but you could put your Game Boy cartridge in and then slide it into the, and then power it on, and most of the games work.
Well, I'm talking about like
and
actual...
then the GameCube...
Well, you had the Game Genie for the NES. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like actual expansion
so
that
it was a game cartridge that you would put in, and you could swap your games out through the top for the Super Nintendo. And then the GameCube came out, and you could plug the expansion into the bottom.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Play some Game Boy Color games, all Game Boy Advanced games, and then every once in a while, like, you'd have some kind of a hiccup, but you had to put a separate disc in so that the expansion would work, which I have it's called a Game Boy Player. I still have a functioning... I have 2, I think, actually. It was weird. The GameCube was the first one to come out with an auto built-in rumble. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think PlayStation 1 actually beat them to it.
No, your 64, you actually had to buy the
expansion.
The adapter.
Yeah, and you could not have the rumble pack and the memory card in at the same time.
I don't remember the 64. Or not 64, but did the GameCube have a rumble pack inside? Okay.
Well, it was built into the base of the 2-prong controller.
Oh, that's right. See, it's just been so long.
And the GameCube